Let's talk about the new upgrades from LEXACOM, because it's not just an ambient AI tool, though that is one of the key components. And so in this video, I'm going to talk you through 4 stages about the upgrade process. Okay, so stick with me as we run through this in this video. First, really important thing is that actually it's quite simple to upgrade. With LEXACOM, and given the fact that they worked in the NHS for years, that they're well trusted, and so effectively you get a file to download for both you and your team to make sure that everyone's now on the new upgraded LEXACOM. And that brings me on to point 2, an overview of the letters. So we've used other versions of LEXACOM where you just effectively dictate it and then send it off to the secretaries. They sort of deal with it, they'll type it up, etc., and get sent on. The issue with that is that it can be quite slow, and I'm going to do a separate video on that. Now this is all integrated with an AI auto dictate function effectively. The key component of that is, and why it's brilliant, is that it then pulls the data automatically from system 1 in terms of who the patient is, so that when your dictation sent to the secretaries, you have not only the audio file, but then effectively your automatic dictation, which you can then quickly proofread and send on to the secretaries. That's important because you then need to think about the actual physical training itself. So what we did with the training was that we sort of broke this down in several parts, because it's not just clinicians who are using it, it's effectively our administration team as well. So when you communicate with LEXACOM, you need to organise at very least 2 Teams meetings. Given our working patterns and given the size of the practice, what we ended up doing was that we did one for our administration team when we invited everyone on there, and then we did 2 separate ones at 2 separate times for the clinical teams. They last about anywhere between half an hour to an hour, just to sort of run you through everything. And they were excellent in terms of highlighting what needs to be done and what needs to go on. What's interesting, as soon as we had the admin sort of teaching, it was effectively, we got nagged by them to make sure we got the clinical training all set up, good to go. So, you know, that sort of sells it to me, and like they were really excited to get this involved and into the practice. Moving on, what they did then offer is sort of a wrap-up one. So effectively one that you could sort of like, if you're getting any snags, any issues and whatnot, that you could just sort of like tie up from that way. So effectively, you know, we were offered 4 touch points with LEXACOM, and I don't know what their hiring strategy is, but they're all lovely. I blame the managing director. He's got a fantastic YouTube video that he did with the Medics Money people, which tease him off absolutely beautifully, and the rest of the team are exactly the same. You know, I've worked closely with some of the sort of the integration teams with sort of like tweaking their updates. We've had a load of back and forths, really responsive to emails if you are getting snags or any problems. So please just reach out to them and drop them. Even one, we connected because we've both got a sight hound. I've got a black greyhound. He's got a gorgeous black whippet by the name of Gizmo, and so yeah, we're now eternal life friends. So, you know, I'm not sure he knows that. Finally, we need to talk about digital safety, because if we're going to integrate this sort of technology, safety is the big one. Now, for me, this was, you've got to do then a DCB 0160, which thankfully our ICB had given us a AVT or ambient voice technology template that we could follow. But there are certain key things that you need to get off whichever provider, which LEXACOM basically just chucked me a massive file with all their safety data, which was, wow, music to my ears, and just made the whole process a lot easier. So the things that they were like, yep, we've already done this. 1, Class 1 device, okay? So it is a Class 1 medical device because of how it's integrating and how you're dealing with patients, and they've got all the necessary paperwork to sort of proof and support that. As it needs a risk assessment also done by them, and that's the DCB 0168, okay, and they provided that all automatically without anything else. They've also provided all the DTAC and all the necessary DPIAs as well, which they just gave it to me. I didn't really have to ask for it as we sort of going with the integration process. So it's really simple to get sort of installed onto your computer system. And there's also a mobile phone app, which is really dead easy to get installed and upgraded. And basically, please, this has been invaluable for our practice in terms of workflow and improving our efficiency amongst it. I'm going to do a separate video on how it's had a massive impact to us, and we've only been using it for about 6 weeks or so. So Dr. Dave Highmarsh, go and check out LEXACOM. I'll leave all the links below. Tell them that I sent you, because this video is sponsored, and so without sort of your support as my audience, then effectively we don't get to do these videos.